better than your currency. Splurging millions, buying houses like Monopoly. Fucking 9 to 5, man, the money is a joke to me. Buying cryptocurrency, my money in the privacy. I make it rain dollars, they watch me disappear. I'm so fly, man, I'ma need some land again.
Hey guys and girls, welcome to this week's episode of the B.Invested Birchy podcast. I'm your host Nathan Birch, and this is a show unraveling the truth to the facade of the 21st century. We're now ex the Matrix and waking up to motherfucking reality. I just love doing the intro, right?
It's the best.
Love the intro. So today I have a special guest, Charlie.
Hey guys.
A lot of you guys may know Charlie. A lot of people may not know who you are. The reason being is that I realised recently a lot of people just say, "Oh, I heard you on the podcast," right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I was like, "Cool," and I was like thinking to myself, a lot of people just listen to the podcast, but they don't see YouTube, they don't see
the rest of
social media, they don't see our Facebook Lives that we do. And I was thinking, shit, I just do these podcasts, but I don't have the rest of my team. And people may be listening going, fuck, I don't know, Nathan has like hundreds of staff and, you know, does all these different things. So that's why I thought this year I'll get on my expert team and I'll get on all different people to interview and have a chat and talk about certain things. So today we want to talk about is it time to update your property strategy, what to do when it's time to update your property strategy, and just have a chat with Charlie as well. So I always have just a few questions to ask.
That's fine.
I'll try to mix them up a little bit.
Fire away.
So today's first question for you is, what does a day in your work life consist of?
It honestly, it's everything.
Yeah.
Right. It could be purely just trying to keep deals alive on clients, making sure their finances all good, make sure they're happy with pest and building, bringing on new clients, reviewing people's existing portfolios. It's everything.
Yeah. Cool. And so your role in the business, like your role as investor relations manager, similar to Jeremy and Gemma and Wayne and Pat, just for those of you that are watching that have met the other guys beforehand. Your background, like you've worked in general real estate beforehand, like listing and selling properties, and did you know what a buyer's agent was before you came on?
Not really, actually, no. So I did general real estate and development work for about 2 years prior to coming here. Got my real estate license, and it was great. But I was always more fascinated and interested in the financial side of it. I've always been one to like save my money, save my pennies, and I like the idea. It's more fun selling a property about the numbers and where it can go rather than having a single transaction experience with a client. And you don't like the pool, it's not close to your kid's school, all that yada yada.
Shit.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so it's much more fun when you have a client who they have ups and downs. They're scared, they enjoy it, and they do 5, 10, 15, 20 properties.
Yeah. And how many, like, before knowing what we did and coming on board, like, did you think, shit, how do people get 10 properties? Like, did you know anyone that had 10 properties?
Well, it was, if I did, it was, no, I didn't know anyone. No, I didn't know anyone. But the people that probably who have achieved it probably achieved it in probably not the best sense. Probably took them 5 times as long and probably cost them 5 times the amount of money.
They got no hair, it's all grey, they can't walk, and they're all old and shit.
That's it.
Much like myself.
Yeah.
Always have these jokes with Charlie about how old I am. So cool. So, and with your clients that you work with, like maybe just a few different types of, so people understand, because like, some people might be listening to this going, oh, maybe I can't get started in real estate, right? I can't get started in investing. Like I don't have enough money, or that's not for me, or my income's like. What do you reckon the lowest income person that you've had that you've got into a property, roughly? You had to guess it's a single person.
I wouldn't remember their income, like their salary, but they had like, I think they had like a little less than 30, but probably by the time they needed the funds, they probably scrounged together 30 grand.
30 grand, you can get started, okay. And like I've seen clients on 40 grand. I remember back in the day I got someone 5 properties on a second year electrical apprentice on like 20 grand a year, 25 grand a year. But like in the current market, probably looking 40 grand or so. Yeah. So your clients that you've got, like if I say how many clients that have over double digits in your portfolio, you laugh because you'll be like, there's lots of them, right? That's what we do. So what are I guess the next question here is like, what do you reckon the biggest opportunities in the industry would be at the moment for people?
For investors?
Yeah.
It's probably just the opportunity. Like, obviously that's the whole question, but I think the point is there's so much better, more availability, more options, better options. It's just, and more control, especially when you do come to a company like ours and a buyer's agency. You want them to do a lot of the heavy lifting and point you in the right direction, and you want them to also get you a good deal. So I think right now is actually the best time, one, to use a buyer's agency, and two, buy properties, because not only can you, one, get a better deal, but you can have more confidence in what you're doing, and we really can twist the agent's arm throughout the entire process. It's not just at the start. It's having protective clauses, it's having a price, it's best in building, it's everything. And
when you say best in build, like you sign a contract on a property for 150K, most people think, okay, I've bought it for 150, but what we do is we continuously go back and say, hey, can we get another $2,000 off? Hey, can we get another $3,000 off? Hey, we need to,
especially now, because it's they've probably already, maybe they've already been in the market for a couple of months. The vendor is getting ruined with these rates every single month, so they're more and more encouraged to sell. So really, the longer they're on the market, the better it is for us.
The TV and the fear, and
the better it is for us, to be honest. And at the end of the day, as long as the client's happy, and you look long term, it's you look back at the opportunities you had and you wish you took more. I think it's, if you can service and if you can service now during these times, you might as well maximize what you can do.
As you're saying it, I'm thinking Christmas, right? Do you know, like I never go at Christmas time. I don't go buy people presents and shit, right? But occasionally I'll be like, oh, I should better go buy something, better go buy a couple of things, right? Last minute, on the last day or the last 2 days, right? Just because I'm always busy. But you know, you think about it. You think about how chaotic the shops are, right? On a Thursday night, on a weekend, right? If I go to the shops on the weekend, I just be like, fuck, I can't. I don't want to go. Why would you want to go to the shops on the weekend? But on a weekday between like 10 o'clock and 4 o'clock in the shopping centre, it's more dead, right? So why would you want to go and compete with all the people in the car park trying to find a parking spot? Why would you want to go and pay the highest price for something because it's not on sale? Like, if there's opportunities to be able to do that, and we haven't seen markets crash or anything like that, and I don't think we're going to see them crash, but like definitely, you know, taking news articles out, negotiating based on the fear that's out there. There's a lot of fear. There's still a lot of activity happening out there, but you know, being able to smash those vendors around is really fun.
You can say that. Okay,
Cool. And I guess the third and final question I got just as an intro, like, what does having a no BS approach in life mean to you?
It actually took me a long time to kind of think about this, because in my head I had the idea, but trying to vocalize it and put it in terms to kind of relate to was a bit trickier. But I think it's purely actually looking at everything in its pros and cons. It's looking at everything in its true light and actually reflecting upon it in the moment. I think it's important to, one, let's say you're a buyer, new investor, put yourself in the mirror of reality and realize, okay, maybe I'm not doing this deal because I might be telling Charlie and Nathan, oh, it's not the right time, or blah, blah. Get that the fuck out of the way and realize that, like, that's just a BS excuse. But it also works on the flip side. You don't want to, not every property out there is the once in a blue moon deal, and you might be fogged by the goggles, whatever they're called, glory goggles. And you need to realize, take everything and look at it at its true face value and what opportunity you do see in it, and seeing for things for what they actually are, and capitalizing on the moments, being real.
And I guess that's like the emotional and logic aspect of it, right? Like most people charge via emotion in life, and being logical about it, right? Like, there can be times of fear. It's a matter of keeping a level head. People say IQ is important, but EQ, which is emotional intelligence, is very important to be able to keep a sound mind. Like, don't get caught up in FOMO or getting caught up in the fear and being paralysed by it. And I always say to people over the last 20 years, I've said, emotions don't pay your bills, right?
Very true.
The emotion, people, that you can be fooled by your friends, your family, a real estate agent or whoever that's out there that's telling you something, but people can be fooled because they're telling themselves subconsciously stories like, I can't do this, or I shouldn't do this, or
I think you should, especially if you're an early investor or an intermediate investor, or have never invested. If you have goals that are bigger than the people around you, you shouldn't be taking their opinions into consideration.
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean? Like, I'll take consideration and advice from you, but I wouldn't from
Yeah, your mates out the pub.
Yeah, exactly. Do you know what I mean? Who don't know anything.
Yeah. I remember this years ago. I remember I had a tradie, right? And he used to sit there and he'd be like drunk. He's always drunk, right? And he's like, he's like 2 marriages down and like no luck, right? And it's always a woman's fault, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, women are shit, blah, blah. He was so pissed off at school. And then you go to him and say like, you're having a bad day or something like that, right? But then you go to another person and they might have a very successful marriage, right? And it's like, Charlie, give you some wisdom or whatever, right? And they tell you some advice and it's like, okay, you've got a successful relationship, you have a very unsuccessful, I'll take a relationship, I'm joining you at the pub when I'm 40, 50, 60, being miserable like that, or I can take this advice. And the same, doesn't matter whether you're a sports star, doesn't matter whether you're taking advice for whatever that you're doing, it's very relevant. So, yeah. Cool. So jumping to discussion today, listening, he's sitting up so high, waiting for the podcast studio to come through. I guess, in a market like today, there's lots of things that are changing out there, and as people grow, they change their strategy, right? Like you might sit there and say, I want to get 5 properties, I want to get 10 properties, I want to get 50 properties, I want to have a house, or whatever the case may be. As you grow throughout life, you realize that you need different things, right? So many of our clients might be sitting there trying to buy 10, and next minute they have a baby.
Yeah.
Right? And I guess, some people might be sitting there going, I'm going to buy 10, they bought 5, and the next minute they lose their job, they get made redundant. They go, hey, I'm going to set up a business, I'm going to earn more money, and then they haven't factored in that they can't get a loan for the next 2 years. But my goals from the start have grown more than anything, but I've always sort of had to be fluid and moving with those goals. So what sort of indicators, I guess it's probably the biggest thing to talk about, what sort of indicators should we be looking at as the property strategy grows? So, affordability, sometimes people will be locked out. We're in a market now, people may not have factored in that interest rates will be rising, right? And some people will wait for interest rates to rise and then property prices will crash and then suddenly they'll get cheap, right?
Yeah.
Then I'll buy. But they haven't realised that they need to have 10 properties in their portfolio. Interest rates might rise for a year and then drop over the next 6 months, and then we're going to see a massive boom, right? They didn't realise that there's stimulus packages out there, right? They didn't realise that as the interest rates rise, their serviceability will disappear. And there's a lot of people I know that are still sitting there waiting from 2020 that want to buy a property, but they can't afford to because they can't get
because a mistake they made 3 years ago.
Exactly. Yeah. And if anyone was ever to be fearful, it wouldn't be because of some interest rates rising and the cost going up a few bucks a week. It would be thinking, shit, we've been locked in our house. We don't know if we're going to have a job. We don't know if there's going to be a Stephen King movie being filmed around us because everyone's going to die. Like, that would be a time to be fearful. And there's still people still sitting there thinking, okay, what about this? What about this? And one thing I've realised in 20 years is that people will sit there, you talk about the no BS, mindset and whatnot. There's still people, it's like they use it as an excuse to get through life. I can't do it now because interest rates are up. So what's the next thing? I guess other things, financial goals, right? Like some people might be stretched. They might have a new job. They may, have had a child, or whatever the case may be. So, financial goals change. Marital status. So if someone's getting married, should be planning for these things. Yeah. Once you have 2 people on a contract, do you put it under one person's name or 2 people's name? Do you go 50-50 or 100%? The loan will be service based on jointly and severably liable. So both people get service on that. Do you load the spouse up with properties and yourself up with properties before you get married? If you're having a child, do you load the missus up with, she may not be working after the kids, and you want to keep her retired, she won't be having the income coming through. So how do you plan for your spouse not to have to go back to work? Yeah. Put tax deductible properties with depreciation and whatnot attached to the woman's name, which wouldn't be working, it would be doing no benefit there. Or do you put the positive cash flow properties that would offset that? So I think it's important to work out who's going to retire first. Would you have both people retiring on the same day, or would you have the husband or the wife retiring first and the other one working through for a few more years? I guess looking at job status, right? If you're working a job, how long have you been there for? What will the banks lend to you on? If you're going to change your job, I've had people working a job for 20 years. They've been doing the same job, and then they decide that they're going to become a contractor at the same place, and they get an extra 20% worth of income. And they're like, yes, I can get more servicing. And then the brakes come on and it's like, well, hang on a second, you do, but you're going to have to wait 2 years to be able to get that and provide that income. And these are discussions that I think people don't think about, but they should be having the discussions with yourself, with myself, with their finance team, with the legal team, to make sure that you're planning and navigating through those stages.
Absolutely.
The strategy that would be for an 18-year-old would be different to the strategy of the 65-year-old.
Of course.
60-year-old doesn't have time to fuck up. The 18-year-old has time to be a bit more aggressive. The 65-year-old would need cash flow more than equity or capital growth. The 18-year-old has all this cash flow from 40 years worth of income ahead of them, where the older person would need the opposite. So, and they'd have heaps of equity and capital growth in their existing assets. So I guess planning for that, planning for, do you put under your super fund? Do you put it under your personal name?
Trusts. All sorts of things,
Yeah. So I guess, looking at that and factoring all those things in, like how does one pivot? Like who do they speak to? What is the best people that you need on the team? I see people quite often, they'll come in and they'll have an accountant, and the accountant has said that they need to do this to save on tax. Their lawyer has said to do this to do whatever, but they haven't factored in that if they reduce their income so much, they can't get a loan. They're waiting another year or 2 years.
You need to make sure that everyone on your team, whether it's financial planner, accountant, anything, they're all aligned.
Yeah.
Whether they all, they're all, don't all be in communication, but you need to go in there and tell them, this is my objective, this is what I'm trying to achieve.
Yeah.
And then they have to work around that because you're their client, you're paying them.
Exactly. And I see so many people get emotionally attached to like, oh, my accountant's been my family friend for 20 years, right? My broker is my sister-in-law or brother-in-law, right? And it's like, well, cool, that's nice. They're your neighbour, whatever, they're your friend. But do they have the capacity? And I think that there was actually a set of questions that we used to hand out to people. I've got to go find them all. But it's like questions that you should be asking your accountant, your lawyer, your broker, and going and asking them the questions and seeing like how they respond. Firstly, by telling them your goals. If they go, if they have a stalling, if they go, oh, well, I don't know if we can, that glitch, that's their uncertainty. Explains everything. So it's important to have all the right people that go, like asking them, how many clients do you have? Like if you want to have 20 properties, how many clients have you helped get 20 properties in their portfolio? How many clients have 20 properties in their portfolio? How many clients have you helped retire? What is your retirement strategy? Like asking your accountant, asking your broker, asking your lawyer, what is your retirement strategy? If they sit there and say, oh, well, I'm going to be a broker till I'm 65, then I'm going to sell the business to my son or daughter, and then they're going to take over the business and then they'll pay me out in retirement. Well, then you suddenly know at that point that they don't have the
same mentality as well. I think it's also important that people ask those questions and essentially shop around, because so many people will go to the first accountant they talk to and go, oh, well, I don't really know much about accounting and you seem like you know what you're doing. So, and same with financial planners and all of them. I think it's even brokers. I think people just go, oh, who's got the best rate, or who might be the cheapest.
Yeah.
But like, you get what you pay for, essentially, right? So you don't want to skip out on something that's going to help you get from, a good broker might help you get to 20 properties, or even much faster than someone who might be a little bit cheaper might only get you halfway, or they might mess up. They might mess up, and then you can't get more.
So it's a good point you say that on the broker side, because so many of them, brokers get paid on the amount of loan that they write. So if they're writing a loan for you for a 200 grand property, or they're writing a loan for you for 40 grand equity or 30 grand equity, that 30 grand equity will get you into your next property.
Yeah.
But the broker has to redo the whole loan. They lose a commission, right? And then they have to rewrite it to get paid back. And they'll just be like, okay, wait another 12 months, right? In that period of time, they don't lose their commission. They make more money out of you by doing that.
You miss opportunity.
Miss the market, miss what you can be doing. So you want to make sure that the people with the team that you have, their goals are aligned with your goals.
Yeah.
But a lot of people don't realise their own goals because they haven't worked it out.
Exactly.
So,
that's why people go to the first person, because they don't really know what they want. They're hoping that this accountant tells them what their end goal is, why would they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You want to know from your team how are they going to help you get there? What things can they have? And they may not have all the answers on the day, but you want to know that they've got good confidence and they've been able to produce a result that you're trying to achieve time and time again to be able to make you get there. If they've never done it beforehand, it's
good luck.
like, who's guiding who now, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. Any other thoughts on any of that? Or?
No, I think it's important that people, you kind of touched on obviously changing your your strategy and how you kind of, when times change, how you change your strategy. And I think people kind of stop and kind of give up really quickly. Yeah. And I think it's important that people, if you're serious, then you need to look at all options. Yeah. Whether that is you get a second job, whether that is you refinance with a second tier lender. Yeah. You know what I mean? Or maybe whatever it is. Maybe you start a trust or a super fund or whatever. Because most people, like you tell me all the time, when a client might have 3, that he might not have the money to do a 4th right now, but he really wants to, and you go, oh, you got 150K in a super fund, set that up, and then we do, and then the clients go, oh, great, he didn't think it was possible, so we kind of told him.
Pulled out, yeah. And I was just thinking, like, when times change, right? We've got people that are like coming into us now and saying, I want to buy in the Gold Coast, right? Nathan bought in the Gold Coast 5 years ago. People have said to me, I don't know if you get the calls about it, right? Yeah. Like, I want to buy in Mount Druitt, I want to buy in Western Sydney, right? I want to buy a house in Sydney. It's like, that worked back 15 years ago, 20 years ago, right? And we need to find the parameters that work, but where can we find it? So if I have to go to Western Australia to make it happen, well, then I have to go to Western Australia. If I have to go to Far North Queensland, I have to go there. If I have to go to the Gold Coast, then I have to go there. And any of these locations that have ever bought or done something in, it's not because I've been like, oh yeah, I want to buy in a really depressed coal mining town, right? It's like, I didn't wake up in the morning and go, I want to buy a shitbox housing commission house back 20 years ago. People used to laugh at me because I was buying house commission houses. They're like, you can't make money out of them. Imagine the test destroying the place and all these opinions. And it's like, well, that's what I could afford. That's what fit inside the strategy at the time. It doesn't fit in now, so I don't do it. I guess just following on from that, like I've got a set of questions that I was trying to ask people like about just a few things, right? So I've got some questions to throw you away. But before we do that, like brand new investors, like you deal with, how many clients would, like percentage-wise, would you speak to that would be never owned a property before, and how many would be an experienced investor that you work with? Roughly.
Yeah, I would say probably at least half either rent or they have a PPR but no investment properties.
Yeah,
it's probably 60%. Probably 60% have never purchased an investment property, and the others have maybe 1, 2, 5. Maybe the occasional person might have 10, and they're stuck. So I think a lot of people also come to us when they have no property so they don't get stuck.
Yeah.
And then people come to us when they have 10, 15, 20 because they are stuck.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So and our job is essentially to make sure they don't get stuck or unstuck them. Do you know what I mean? To make sure they keep going.
Yeah. And what would be the mindset behind a new investor, do you think? Like what would be that, or an experience that gets stuck? Like I think it's good to look at the things that are working out there and the things that aren't working. Like if someone gets stuck, what is their mindset? What gets them stuck?
I think their mindset is, okay, I'm done. I'm quit. I've done everything. Like I said before, I think they think all their options are maxed out and they think they've shaken every tree.
Yeah.
But for a new investor, I think it's everything. I think their mindset could be optimistic. They could be fearful. It's some. I have clients now who might have already bought 5 properties, but they still need hand holding.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Because not because they're inexperienced, but they're just nervous. Do you know what I mean? Because they might live in New South Wales and it's their first time buying in WA. They don't know the contracts are different. They don't know the properties are different. They don't know anything. So there's a lot that goes on, and for a new investor, that's where I think we are the most valuable.
Yeah.
I think it's getting that foundational property of the first 10 properties at least.
Yeah.
Having a buyer's agency is tremendously helpful.
Yeah. And I guess on that, like, it's not every day that someone goes down and buys 5 properties in a month or 2 months or 6 months or 12 months. So it is a big thing, and that's where we're there to support. But also, like, one thing that I realised with a lot of these people, when I speak to them and they get through to me, that they're stuck or they've got 10, 15 properties, quite often I'll look at their position, I'll be like, I can tell the point that they got stuck, right? I can always tell, like, why did you get stuck? And it's like, well, because they only wanted to buy a house. They only wanted to buy in a capital city. They bought these things because they were based on emotion. They were based on their opinions. They were based on this. And it's not that they've done bad. It's just that that's what got you stuck. What can we do to fix that? And what are our options to get over that hurdle? And what things can we do to tweak it? And everybody's, we've got people there that have been stuck, and we've been able to, swap out one property, put 5 new ones in there, and then they're back on the road buying more. So
I think for a lot of people, I actually say this a few times with people who are they're a bit fearful about the whole thing, and they don't want to have $1 million of debt, whatever, for the firm if they do 4 or 5 properties. It's really in the short term. It sounds bad, but in the short term, we're pleasing the bank, so in the long term, we can please you.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? We really need to please the bank so you don't get stuck and they keep giving you money and you can keep purchasing and building your empire. So then in the long term, you're sitting back, relaxing,
Exactly.
before you're 65,
The banks they call it leverage because the bank is a tool, right? People leverage our skill set, people leverage our knowledge, people leverage our team, people leverage other people by painting their property or doing it. Like you go out there and fix everything in their property. How many people do we speak to and they're like, oh yeah, I don't want to buy there because I have to go and paint with it.
yeah. How much is paint?
Yeah, it's like it's such a small minded thing of like, I actually had a podcast recently with Gemma from your team, and we asked her what generation would have had it tougher, right? Would have been the younger generation or the older generation, right? I'll ask your thought on that too, but in a second. But the thing that I think about, right, today as an investor versus 20 years ago for me, I was in a country town and I did this video. I never published it because someone stole my video camera, right? But it had all the memory cards and all the info, right?
No.
It was 30 days and 30 grand to build a house.
Yeah, you told me about this.
Yeah, and it was out in Musselbrook, and I was in a pub. There's a video online. Me in this pub, there's a glove hanging out of the wall, right? I was sleeping in a pub. It was $200 a night for the pub room, right? It was fun, right? It was hot. The doors didn't even shut. It was so bad, right? And for me to find trades, it was a mining boom and all that stuff. And it was like, for me to find trades, how would I find a trade? So I went to the pub and I was sitting at the counter. I was like, let's get drunk and talk to some tradies. So you go to the pub, right? And I was finding people. It's like, okay, you come to me tomorrow for $200 a day, whatever. And it was like, say $150 a day, $100 a day, $200 a day now. And it's like, wow, like you're really getting some slave labor back there, right? But I look back and it was like decent money at the time. And how did I find my trades? I had to go network and stuff, right? And literally, if someone was going to paint a house today in 2023, you could put it on Facebook Marketplace,
Gumtree,
right? Gumtree, Airtasker, right? All these different things. Like, I get a lot of my trades like from trades, off trades and stuff. So like the ability today to be able to overcome someone tells you an objection. It's like, well, okay, what do we need to do to fix it, right? A lot of people just sit there and go, that's the end of the road for them. It's a roadblock, but it's how do we, go, okay, well, that's cool. I've got traders that are like a circuits, right? They start our circuits, right? The traders go, okay, we're going to Cairns tomorrow. We're going, different places. So, yeah.
I think, a lot of clients kind of sometimes they're having a rough experience or there's some hurdles in the way, whether it's finance or whatever, and they kind of give you a call and you can kind of sense that they kind of just want to rant to you. They're not pulling out of the deal. They just want to rant to you because you told them it was going to be not smooth sailing. It's still hard, even. Do you know what I mean? But they call you. They just kind of want to rant, and you listen to them, and you tell them, okay, now listen to what I have to say, because now I'm going to tell you how we can get you out of this pickle or whatever uncomfortable circumstance they're in. Whether they're calling us because they maybe bought their own properties 3 or 4 years ago and now they've kind of turned to shit or whatever.
You've experienced from the side of being a real estate agent as well, right? Imagine all the people, right? I just think back, like I see real estate agents out there, I feel bad for them because they're like, someone will come in and buy a property from a real estate office and the next minute they'll say, oh, my uncle told me that this is going to happen, or Artie told me this is going to happen, I watched the news and this was on there. And real estate agents just go, oh, okay, cool, you're pulling out of the deal, or they'll try some trick to try and keep the buyer on it. But it's like, there's a lot of people out there that are unknowledgeable. They don't have the knowledge. They don't have any idea what the fuck they're doing, but they just think it's good that they buy a property, or they think it's good that they're doing something. But when you have clarity, it's like having a roadmap where you can go, okay, I ventured off the road a little bit, I took the wrong exit, but now I need to know that I can just drop a U-turn or go sideways, hop back out on the freeway and take the road back on there. And I think the clarity around those goals is very crucial.
I think that's one of the first thing I ask anyone when I first have a conversation with them, and I continually ask them probably every 3 to 6 months, or at least every purchase, to see, 1, are we closer there, or 2, have they changed their goals? It's even throughout every purchase to ask them again to see if they're the same and if we're closer or if they're realigned. I think it's important that we cater the experience, what their goals are, so we're all on the same page. It's much like the brokers and the accountants, and everyone needs to be on the same page with what you want to achieve.
Yeah.
It's important that you refresh them and go, hey, maybe you wanted to work 3 days a week and now you're doing it.
Yeah.
You know, after a couple of purchases, now we're doing more. So what's your new goal?
Yeah.
And you need to congratulate them when they get to the micro milestones and the short-term goals as well.
Yeah. Like so many times over the years, I've seen someone will come on board and they're like, I'm just going to buy one property, I want to test it out. And then a month later, they're like, I want to buy a second one, right? And then by the end of it, it's like, they're like a teenager smoking weed and they're looking for the next hit. And they're like, I'm going to sell my little brother's bloody PlayStation, right? Because I want to try and get the next hit. I'll do whatever it takes. So I did a podcast recently with one of our investors, and he sold his motorbike, right? His beloved bike, all these things, because that's what he needed to do. And then he went and bought a better car. I got a client that sold their Porsche, an old Porsche, used that as a deposit for the property, used the equity from the property to go buy himself a newer Porsche, right?
Yeah.
It's just working out and recalibrating. I thought it was impossible at the start, an 18-year-old version of myself, to buy 10 properties by the age of 30. I look back and I'm like, slap myself about it, right? So,
well, think about it. A lot of my clients are below the age of 30, and most of them do more than one at a time, like easily. Like last night, some guy accepted 4 deals.
4 deals.
Yeah,
right? This guy, he's like, how old is he? 24, I think he is.
Yeah, he's around my age. Yeah.
24. He's bought like 2 properties to start off with himself. Pulled out 200 grand worth of equity. Buying 4 properties straight away. They're getting the 6, and he wants to get to 10 in the next 3 years. I'm like, dude, just do that again, and you'll get to 10 properties by the end of the year.
Yeah.
And it's 24-year-old. It's like never too old.
It's great. He's quick. And now I message him and call him. He's a quick responder.
Yeah. And you can tell, like, I know when I speak to people, it's like, sometimes people say, I'm going to do this, going to do that, and do nothing.
Yeah.
Right? And they get fearful, or whatever goes on in their head, they get trigger shy, or whatever.
Yeah, they start on like a kind of a runner's high.
Yeah.
And then when it sets in, they're like, oh, and then they freak out, and I step in and kind of help.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. And I guess that takes me on to the question that I have for you, Charlie. One of the last questions is, what would be like the top couple of fears that you think that most investors would have when buying a property? Like, if people weren't fearful, everyone would be doing it, right?
I think there's heaps of things. I think failure is like an obvious big one. But if you dive deeper into that, it could be the fear of other people's opinions as well, especially when buying. You're maybe not buying a $2 million investment property like an idiot, but you might buy a $300,000 property, and then you tell your friends and family, and they laugh at you. You know, there's that kind of fear. Yeah. There's fear of just the property never going up in value. There's a fear of not knowing the area, not personally walking through it yourself. Even though you can do a bunch of other stuff. There's heaps of fears. I think people really focus on the downsides and not the upside. Yeah. You know, like I kind of touched on before. Like if you listen to the opinions of others, you're never going to surpass them.
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean?
Exactly.
So it's you actually need to have your mindset in a completely different state than the people you're surrounded by. If you're surrounded by those people, in order to achieve much better than them. Yeah. And I think getting over that really reduces probably 90% of the fears. Yeah. And the rest ones really are just, well, that's what I'm here for. Yeah. So I think the fears part of it is at the start. It's very scary, and a client might take a long decision to do so it might take a long time to make small decisions, but once they have 5-10 properties, you ask him and it's no, it's quick.
It's like driving the car, you know.
Exactly. You remember how to do it.
Vision,
Look behind, look everywhere.
Now you can be like smoking, drinking on the phone, not even confidence, put that down.
And it's the confidence. It's the confidence. It's the confidence you get. It's the confidence you get from having the experience of obviously them doing it several times, but also us doing it probably tens of thousands of times. Yeah. And helping them out. Exactly.
And on that note, I appreciate everyone watching. And I always say, you can email the team at admin@B.Invested.com.au or call us at 1300 367 925. But that call comes through, and Charlie is one on the other end of the phone, or not taking the call directly. Sometimes you do, but most times, rarely. If the phone, there's too many calls.
That's if I'm running to the phone.
Yeah. But when you call that number, the team will put you in contact with Charlie, put you in team with the investor relation team, and you might be sitting here today thinking, shit, something's held me back. Right? One of your clients on Monday, I had a map session with him. Yeah. He came to a map session 6 years ago. Yeah. Right? He's 25 or something. He was only like 19. Came for a map session years ago. And he came on board and he bought his first property today. Right?
Yeah.
And someone might be sitting here going, I had that goal when I was 25, now I'm 35, right? Or I had this goal of doing this, I haven't done it. And if something, that you've heard today that we've discussed, or you want to have a chat with Charlie about your personal position of how we can help you get to where you want to be, call that number, ask for Charlie, send us an email at admin@B.Invested.com.au, and Charlie can be in chat with you. Any final pieces of tips or anything for anyone?
Gosh. No, I think it's more just, if you've been putting it off prior, doing it yourself, then having a team like you, like myself, like the rest of the team, is no excuse to push it back any further. I think I talk to people and I explain the process and they go, oh wow, okay, what's next? Like it's really easy. Like we wouldn't have been. One thing I say actually was my last bit is whenever people go, oh, you're a buyer's agency, like, oh, well, what do you do? And I tell them, like, yes, there's heaps of other buyer's agencies out there, but we were actually one of the first ones and we were doing it for the longest. And to prove that, just go on YouTube and filter the videos from oldest to newest, and you'll see Nathan was doing this 14, 13, 15 years ago. And we know what we're doing because of that. We have the experience. So I think if you're interested, click the link below, give us a call, send us an email, whatever you want, and I'll be happy to chat.
Awesome, Charlie. When I first started this, there was no buyer's agents out there. No one was using a YouTube account.
Exactly.
I was one of the first YouTube accounts out there. I had a fresh face back in the day.
Yeah.
Not so much nowadays on the videos, but I guess that's knowledge over years. We've done over 15,000 transactions in the last 14 years, and we've never had anyone blow their fingers off, get themselves hurt.
People don't realize how big that is. 15,000 is like 15,000, but 15,000 transactions. Like one transaction for some clients is like a nightmare. Do you know what I mean? Let alone doing that 15,000 times. In each year or every couple of months, it's more and more and more. So I think we know what we're doing.
We've got teams of people to help you not make those mistakes, and we can see issues before you're going to run into the wall, and we make sure that no one does that. So cool. Well, if you do like this, smash up the like, share it with your friends and family. Make sure you subscribe. Google Play, Apple Play, Spotify, and YouTube every week. Come out on Thursdays, and make sure you call the office 1300 367 925 and ask for Charlie. We'll catch up soon. Have a great day.
See you guys.
Thanks, Charlie.
Bye.
Keep being awesome. What do you do?
Like Bilal said, man, we're stuck in the matrix. This my advice, don't care if you take it. The dollar back to die, soon to be hyperinflated. This my 2 cents, don't care if you save it. Joint be decentralized and you will see you've been lied to the whole time, and it's the irony, cause they do the exact opposite. You become a slave to the system, enough your money, all they do is profit. There's no conspiracy theory, you better hear me. Crypto will set you free before the system does. I don't care if you do or you don't, but what I'm saying is the truth to the reason you choke. I've never been a failure, excuse my behavior. Keep talking, haters doing me a favor. They all tell lies, I know what they been telling you. I'm the opposite, the Donald Trump of Australia. It's amazing, here for the taking. My time is never wasted, just getting wasted. These girls say I'm really breathtaking.